Hey everybody, it's Alexa, and I wanted to talk about something called therapeutic forgiveness, which I just came across in a book called Psycho-Cybernetics. Is that what it's called? Uh, yes, Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. It's a very old book, and he was a plastic surgeon, and it's an old self-help book from 1960, I believe, and he was a plastic surgeon up until maybe from the 1920s. In fact, he talks about how styles changed because in the 1920s, apparently women wanted breast reductions, and then by the 1960s, they wanted breast enlargements. And so he was talking about how he discovered that people's self image sometimes would be marvelously enhanced by plastic surgery, and other times wouldn't change at all. And that's where he began to explore a lot of the thought processes that made for a happier person, a more successful person. And so this is definitely in the same vein as many of the new thought types of books, which then can tend to go into the law of attraction sort of direction. But what I like about what he says is a little bit different from law of attraction, a little bit less mystical. And the part that I think is really valuable is he talks about uh, the idea that we have he calls it a servo mechanism. Basically, um, we set a goal, and then our body and our mind sort of intentionally goes in that direction without us even trying to go there, without having to specify the details. And he gives an example, as a dated example, of course, of picking up a pack of cigarettes. If you wanted to pick a pack of cigarettes up off the table, you wouldn't go, well, let me put my arm out and then take it down and then reach over and then spread my fingers and then grab it. You would just think, I'm going to get this object off the table, and then your body does the rest without you having to specify those steps. And so he gives that example of when you have a very clear goal and a clear sense of what the feeling will be when you achieve that goal, having done that, then a lot of stuff sort of happens in the background. Your body sort of makes it happen. So it's, like I said, it's similar to some of the new thought and some of the law of attraction literature, but a little bit more pragmatic and real world. But I wanted to get to this point, which is this concept of therapeutic forgiveness, because I thought it was really a magical point of view and not one that I have really come across. So in this particular chapter, he talks about common fallacies. And he says, forgiveness is a scalpel which removes emotional scars. I can forgive, but I cannot forget is only another way of saying, I will not forgive, said Henry Ward Beecher. Forgiveness ought to be like a canceled note, torn in two and burned up, so that it never can be shown against one. Forgiveness, when it is real and genuine and complete and forgotten, is the scalpel which can remove the pus from old emotional wounds, heal them, and eliminate the scar tissue. Forgiveness which is partial or half-hearted works no better than a partially completed surgical operation on the face. Pretended forgiveness, which is entered into as a duty, is no more effective than a simulated facial surgery. Your forgiveness should be forgotten, as well as the wrong that was forgiven. Forgiveness which is remembered and dwelt upon reinfects the wound that you are trying to cauterize. And then he says, and forgiveness is not a weapon, and you need to, give up grudges, and don't use forgiveness. Oh, cool. Don't use forgiveness just to, as a weapon or as a sense of superiority to the other person. But I really like this point, which he says, there's different ways, different reasons to forgive. And so certainly a sense of taking the high road or superiority is one reason. But he says the problem is we often forget that there's a wonderful reason to forgive, and that is the therapeutic reason for ourselves. That's therapeutic forgiveness. So therapeutic forgiveness, let me read this passage. He says, in therapeutic forgiveness, we cancel out the debt of the other person, not because we have decided to be generous or do him a favor, or because we are a morally superior person. We cancel the debt, mark it null and void, not because we have made the other person pay sufficiently for his wrong, but because we have come to recognize that the debt itself is not valid. True forgiveness comes only when we are able to see and emotionally accept that there is and was nothing for us to forgive. We should not have condemned or hated the other person in the first place. And I haven't quite finished this book, but I wanted to share that food for thought. I thought it was really cool. And certainly, anybody who's lived, we've had moments where we felt wronged and wanted to get past it or wanted to feel better. And, try therapeutic forgiveness. It might help you get to the other side of that wall or barrier that's holding you back, or that's allowing you to rack up an internal list of perceived wrongs against you. And I recommend reading the book. You can find it, like I said, I believe it's out of copyright now, so you can find it as a PDF. Psycho-Cybernetics is the name of the book by Maxwell Maltz, but you can also listen to the audiobook on YouTube. So I've been doing that for a while, and it's kind of fun to listen to it. And actually, the guy who reads it, I don't know when the audiobook was made, but he kind of has an old-timey voice, but it's not, in fact, the author of the book. So I've kind of been binging on some self-help books lately, and the only problem with binging is then you tend to forget. Another great one that I read recently was The Magic of Thinking Big, I believe. So these are, like I said, I consider them to be on a spectrum of similar types of books, and New Thought is definitely you can kind of put a lot of these books into that category, but I think it's also useful to always refresh your motivation and refresh your perspective on life. So I hope that was helpful. Please comment if you have found a recent self-help book and put it to use in your life. Thanks for watching. Bye.